Here's how to set boundaries and consolidate your power so you can free yourself from the controller's reality. Hi, I'm Saratoga Ocean, and I work together with a group of interdimensional, interuniversal, and extraterrestrial beings known as Telstar, along with Archangel Michael. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use your power to set boundaries in a way that will restore control over your own life. So whenever you're going to consciously deploy a new use of your power as a cosmic being, it's always a good idea to begin by assessing the landscape of where we are right now. So let's take a couple of moments to do just that. It's clear by now that the controllers of this planet are trying to take control of our lives and shut us down completely. Now, why do you think the controllers of this planet are so obsessed with controlling us? I mean, these guys are obsessed. It's because they need our energy. And that is a key point that we really want to pay attention to. See, they're always throwing up all these smoke and mirrors and keeping us distracted so that we do not recognize the root cause of their obsession with controlling our lives. And the root cause of that obsession is because they have cut themselves off from source energy, which has actually left them empty and with no power to create. See, they have allowed themselves to be folded in to a bigger problem in this universe, which is a reverse flow of energy, meaning energy flowing in reverse of how it was actually intended to expand. What they're doing is they're grabbing at those of us who do have energy, who do have a power to create. They're grabbing onto us because they don't have it for themselves. See, all of the entities who are controlling this planet have no idea about who they really are or about how to legitimately create anything. So the weird thing is that on an evolutionary scale, they are in much worse shape than we are. So they are desperately trying to keep us down at their level so they can use our energy and our power to create, because they have cut themselves off to the extent that they don't have either one of those resources or those capabilities. So this is one of the most important things that we need to be awake to. We actually don't need to be intimidated. We really just need to understand what is actually going on in terms of the energy dynamics of this entire situation. So right now, part of what this planet is suffering from is we have multiple forces, extraterrestrial, interdimensional, and human, who exist in a seriously reverse flow energy, which is actually a taking energy. It's energy that flows in reverse. See, in a weird kind of way, they're actually almost energetically drowning. It's like somebody who doesn't have enough air to breathe. They get pretty desperate. And these controllers are extremely desperate. In fact, they are so entrapped, they are so enmeshed in this reverse flow energy that they have no desire to evolve. And that's really important for us to recognize, because what they're trying to do is they want to drag us down to their level so that we also lose our desire to evolve as well. Their intention is to keep all of us in a reverse flow of energy, meaning that our energy is flowing backwards, which is why they always want to keep us in fear. See, it's really quite simple. Fear always puts you in a reverse flow of energy, and you just have to look at you can actually sense it if you pay attention, that fear makes us withdraw, retract, we're shrinking, our energy's going this way. It's not empowered and radiating outwards, but it's shrinking. This is a reverse flow. This would be a radiating flow. So one of the main reasons, maybe it's the main reason, whether they're conscious of it or not, that the controllers always want to keep us in fear is because it keeps us in that reverse flow, that disempowered flow of energy that maintains our consciousness at their level. Now, if you want to know the specific details about how a reverse flow got created in this universe, how a radiating flow is meant to manifest, and all of those specifics about fear and all the physics underlying this entire situation, you can get on the waiting list for my upcoming digital course, Ascension Power, Trust the Light Within. I'm going to be launching that course probably in late summer. So if you want to get on the wait list, I will put the link in the description below. So here's why fear is so important to the controllers. The experience of fear instantly puts a person into a reverse flow of energy, which makes them very, very vulnerable to their control. And it's interesting the language that we use, because we tend to use language like, man, these people are just getting sucked into all of these lies and all of this treachery, right? It's no accident that we use the words sucked in. That's actually incredibly accurate, because a reverse flow energy is it's like an energy of suction. It's literally true. When you use that terminology, it's accurate to the physics of that situation. Now, because the controllers are obviously getting more and more desperate and trying to exert more fear, more control, and all of that stuff, I'm going to show you several ways that you can use boundaries to counter this intense pull by those controllers into a reverse flow state of fear. And this is also really great because this will help you to consolidate your energy so that you are not so apt to unconsciously allow them to siphon it off from your energy body. Now, one of the main ways the controllers do this is they want to keep us in a perpetual state of overwhelm. They want to keep us overwhelmed with excess thoughts and emotions that are completely fear-based. And here's why that is: because overwhelm produces paralysis. I mean, you can probably even see that in your own personal life, right? I mean, overwhelm about anything usually tends to lead to procrastination and some form of paralysis. So I want to give you a really simple analogy to make something crystal clear so that you can understand the energy dynamics of what I want to share with you. Have you ever had a closet full of junk, or maybe a garage full of junk, or maybe you have like a junk room in your house, or even a junk drawer? I think it's pretty natural to feel overwhelmed at the thought of dealing with all that junk. A lot of books have been sold to help people get out of the procrastination paralysis at the mere thought of going through all that stuff. Well, the controllers understand very well this dynamic. They know that if they keep us overwhelmed with a whole lot of different fear-based realities, they can induce in us a kind of evolutionary paralysis. See, they want to shift us away from love and evolution into fear and survival. So they set up what I will call a funnel of overwhelm using the media and the internet. I mean, let's talk about the so-called news. The first requirement for all news is that it must be all bad, right? It has to be stuff designed to keep you scared and demoralized. But I want to point something out. We have mainstream news, and then we also have alternative news. But have you ever noticed that both of those sides are completely fear-based and anger-based? It's like you have the mainstream news, which is basically fear-based, and then you have the alternative news, which is essentially anger-based. And those are two dynamic forces of energy that are absolutely married to one another. Both of them are designed to keep us divided and keep us in fear of each other and of the world. So if you step back and you remember that we are cosmic beings, that we are here to evolve, you can start to see these dynamics and understand them for what they are. And to use my previous analogy, you could actually think of all news as being like a giant junk drawer. It's all designed to produce overwhelm in one form or another. And now we have something that I'm going to call galactic news. Because despite the controllers' efforts to repress the extraterrestrial universe, our consciousness is definitely expanding beyond this planet Earth. So more and more people are sharing massive amounts of information that they are getting from connections that they might have throughout this galaxy. And it's not that that's bad, but I do want to remind you that that can also overwhelm you as well, because that's an awful lot to process when you are already overwhelmed by Earth-based news. So, in order to continue evolving and stay on a conscious path of ascension, we need to use our power to set boundaries in all of these areas, to be very conscious about what we're doing with our energy and our consciousness so that we can stay focused and aligned and in harmony with our own evolution. So here's a simple way to start looking at this. You basically have two simple choices. You can either fill your mind with an endless supply of news and information, or you can take full command and full control of what you allow into your consciousness and the rate at which you allow it in. You know, food is great and obviously entirely necessary, but if you eat too much all at once, it will make you sick. And on the other hand, if you eat just the right amount of food, it's going to support you and energize you. So you can look at information and news in a very similar way. Too much news and too much information coming at you all at once can actually make you feel sick with overwhelm. Just like your physical body cannot digest way too much food all at once, your consciousness doesn't really need to have to digest a huge amount of news and information that just keeps flowing into your mind over and over and over again. So we really need to calibrate on a conscious level what we allow into our consciousness and why. You can start by asking yourself this question. Is what I'm taking in right now contributing to my health and well-being? How specifically is this helping me to evolve? And then pause and wait for an answer from within yourself. You'll probably get an answer pretty quick. If what you're taking in is only contributing more confusion and more fear, then it's time to turn that faucet off. So you can actually look at it kind of like a faucet that's just pouring out this toxic experience, and you can just turn it off. And then it's time to just step away and clear your mind. See, in this world of the internet, we can get into the habit of overloading ourselves with too much input. And I would also add social media to this list. I think the creators of social media designed it to take us out of our bodies and make us unconscious. So with that in mind, I think it's really important that we use social media very sparingly. See, all of the things that I've suggested so far have to do with waking up, taking your power back, and taking full command of who you are as a conscious being. Now, everything that I've talked about so far has to do with setting boundaries in your mind. You want to calibrate the flow of information into your consciousness in such a way that you don't get overwhelmed. And when we understand this, we're not going to be so vulnerable to being controlled by the people that have put all of these systems in place specifically designed to overwhelm us. Now, next I want to talk about emotional boundaries. And also remember that the state of your emotions directly affects your physiology. See, when your emotions are calm and you feel centered, it gives your body a chance to heal and maintain an energetic balance. Your emotional state determines whether you feel good or whether you feel terrible. So you can think of your emotions as being almost like an envelope of space. You want to maintain control of that space and keep it peaceful. See, once you've set mental boundaries by calibrating how much information you allow into your consciousness, you then create space for your emotions to breathe rather than feeling crushed. So let me show you two ways that you can easily set emotional boundaries. There are two main things that can intrude on your emotional space. One way is how other people are reacting to life in general, and the other way is how you are thinking about yourself or how you are talking to yourself. Let's talk about the first one, which is about other people. Because right now, a lot of people are feeling that sense of overwhelm because they're not really understanding that they do need to calibrate what they're allowing to flow into their consciousness. So people can be very, very reactive at this time. And if you find yourself getting emotionally hooked into other people's experiences of reality, it can also start to create a feeling of emotional chaos inside of you as well. So if you notice that that is happening, all you have to do is pause and set up a conscious boundary within yourself. Recognize that that other person or persons have their own physical, mental, and emotional space, and you have yours. And the two do not necessarily have to meet. This way, you can preserve calm in your emotional environment while simultaneously honoring theirs by letting go of any need that you might have for them to be a certain way. See, here's something really interesting to recognize. The only reason that you would need for them to be a certain way is if you are intruding on their emotional space or you're allowing them to intrude on yours, and you're mixing all that emotional energy up. You're trying to find your balance, your equilibrium, your stability, and you're like, well, now we're kind of mixed together, so I need for you to be this way so I can feel better in my own space. See how problematic that can be? And then the second thing that I said can intrude on your emotional space has to do with your own thoughts about yourself and about your life. There are two types of thoughts that you can have about yourself. One type is positive and life-giving, and that would be things like gratitude or optimism or things like that. The other type is negative and against yourself. And these negative types of thoughts are usually related to past experiences or past traumas. So you overall want to encourage life-giving, inspirational, and supportive thoughts, which increase and uplift your emotional energy. So here's what you can do whenever you notice that there is negative self-talk intruding on your emotional space. You can either end it immediately, or if it's the result of past traumas or issues that you really need to address, you can actually assign it a separate space from your everyday life and recognize and acknowledge it as something that you need to address and heal. And that's the way that you can handle it without rejecting that part of yourself, because you're actually accepting that part of yourself. You're treating it with love, and you're acknowledging that it's real, it's valid, and you acknowledge that this is something that I need to heal. I need to give this attention at the appropriate time, and I need to heal this. Can you start to see how all of these things are lending a much bigger sense of empowerment overall in your consciousness? See, overall, you want to think about it as increasing your emotional energy, and I'll explain what I mean by that. Increased emotional energy manifests as passion, as love, and as inspiration. It's very fulfilling. And what happens with negativity is negativity and fear actually decrease your emotional energy. And that can manifest as depression, as overwhelm, and as exhaustion. So just look at your emotional space, as I was saying earlier, almost like an envelope of energy. And you have control over that space. You get to decide what happens within that space and how you're going to manage it and handle it from a loving place and from a conscious place. And that's another way that you're setting boundaries, because you are saying, I'm going to decide, I'm going to take control of this space. I'm going to heal what I need to heal. I'm going to address whatever parts of me that I have been in denial of, but you're doing it all from a loving, conscious place, and you're protecting that space. So it's not being intruded upon by all of this outside junk that is not helpful or supportive of you or your life. And the final thing you want to do is to set some physical boundaries. And this has a lot to do with how you organize your use of time and how you organize or choose your activities. Now, you can think of time as being like space. It's kind of like the space of your home or the space of your life. So you can look at it like every day you have a measured space of 24 hours, and you get to put whatever you want in that space. You get to design what that space is going to look like. The question is, Do you have clear boundaries around that space? Or do you leave it wide open for anything and anyone to enter into that space? You know, how much of that space are you going to use for sleeping? Are you going to be thinking about the activities that you are doing in that space and how it's affecting you directly? How is it influencing your consciousness? See, overall, you want to be your own protector. This all comes down really to self-love, self-acceptance, and this is how you consolidate your power and you don't allow it to be siphoned off by all of this junk going on. And you know, you may not be able to put all of these ideas into practice all at once, but you can just take one thing at a time. Just pick one of the things that I shared with you and one that has the most meaning for you right now and just start to work with it because you know, it takes practice. We're not in the habit of being in command of the space of who we are, the space of our consciousness, and the space of our energy. We're just not in practice doing that because we've been giving it away for a lifetime. So this is not about, put up walls and wall everything out. Because see, that would be a defensive posture, right? To think of it, well, I'm just going to wall everything out. I'm just going to live behind my energetic walls. That's not what I'm talking about at all, because you don't want to be in a defensive posture. You want to be in an empowered stand. You want to be taking an empowered stand as the cosmic being that you are. You know, one time Archangel Michael shared something really interesting with me. He actually asked me a question. He said to me, why would you be any different here on Earth than you would be anywhere else in the universe? Now, I have to confess, when he first asked me that, which was quite some time ago, I gave him all the reasons why not, which now I look back on and think, well, that was really dumb, right? Because now I completely get it. I totally understand where he was coming from. It's like we have to be those cosmic beings that we are here on Earth, the same exact beings that we are in the cosmos, in the universe, in the wider expanse of reality. We need to be those beings here. We have this illusion that's been programmed into our minds that no, here on Earth, we have to be different. We have to be something else. We have to be victims or whatever the controllers have programmed us to believe about ourselves. So a lot of waking up is about realizing we actually live in the universe right now. We need to be who we are right now. We need to enact our lives as we would on any other planet in even a better place than this place is right now. We need to be those people now. We don't want to wait. In other words, we're so used to being controlled by the outer environment that we live in. And this is why so often we feel like, oh, if I could just go to another planet, things would be so much better. It'd be so much easier to be conscious, to be who I really am. But see, that's a weakness that has been instilled in all of us by all of the brainwashing and the programming and the fear and all the junk that's been laid on us for our entire lives. So really, our role here is to take control of who we are, take control of our consciousness. And back to what I was saying about I'm not suggesting putting up walls and barriers and walling people out. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. I'm suggesting that this is something you do out of love. So when you're creating boundaries, it's not like you're creating walls. It's like you're taking command of your energy. You're taking command of your space. You're taking command of your consciousness. You are taking loving control back of yourself. You're taking loving control back of your life. And this is all an act of self-love and also recognition of who you really are. I mean, this is the real answer to the mess that we're in on this planet. This is the actual answer. Because if we keep thinking the answers lie in somebody out there has to do something to fix all of this, you know, we could wait a long time, right? This is a much better answer because this, when we do this as individuals, we literally change the energy dynamics of the collective humanity on this planet. We're standing up for who we really are, how it really is, and how we're actually meant to be. And that makes us a force of power in this situation. That makes us a force of influence in this situation. Because otherwise, we're just buying into the lie that the controllers have fed us, that we have no power and they have all the power. Guys, they don't have any power. They only use lies and manipulation to make us afraid, to manipulate us into certain behaviors, certain beliefs. It's crazy. And, we can actually wake up to the whole thing. And then what happens? They don't have anything left. I mean, they really have nothing left. So I hope that makes sense to you all. I hope that's inspired you and empowered you. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it out with anyone else who you feel would be supported by this information. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already and hit that notification bell, because I am here every Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday with all new videos. And with that, I'm sending you so much love, light, and high vibrational energy. And I so look forward to seeing you in the next video. Namaste.